Hey everybody, welcome to the Quilt Along live check-in. We're going to get started in just a second. We'll give everybody a chance to get on here and join us. Thank you, those of you that are already here. It's been a lot of fun watching your conversation and your questions, and I cannot wait to tell you all about the quilt we're working on. So one more moment, I'm going to go ahead and switch that over. All right, so in case you're wondering, this is the Glorious Dawn Quilt Along. I know, the Glorious Dawn, you normally see me at midnight, but this is definitely worth getting up for. Or you could be like Kimberly, who in the comments took off Mondays from work to join this. No pressure, right? Of course, I guess anything's better than being at work, right? What I'm gonna do in this weekly check-in, we're just gonna check out the quilt, see what we're gonna be working on. I'll kind of lay out the parameters, what this live is gonna be like, and then basically just answer your questions, have a great time, make sure you're doing fine with the pattern, and we'll have a great time. After we're done, we'll hopefully have a finished quilt to talk about, so fantastic. But before we can do the quilt along, if you haven't got your kit yet, let me show you what we're working on so you can see the quilts that we're gonna be doing. All right, so our first one is not that one, this one. We're not making a be right back sign. So this is the first colorway. This quilt along is awesome in that you get your choice of color and size. So this is a sea spray color option, the beautiful greens and blues, lots of fun. Or you can go with the spectrum, which is the rainbow with the light blue or light gray backing. I saw a couple of you in the comments were wanting that gray backing. Let me tell you, it's the perfect shade of gray. A little bit of warmth, not too dark, not too light, gorgeous. That's the one I did in the videos. But for those of you that love purple, there's the hydrangea colorway, and that has that gorgeous purple and blues with the black background. And so very, very striking, a lot of really, really fun options. So that is the quilt that we're going to be working on. Now, all the quilt along videos are already done. I've already filmed those for you. Those are available on myblueprint.com. So that's broken up into the different kinds of blocks that we're using and kind of shows you how that goes. This is the live check-in where I get to chat with you and see how you're doing it. Kind of gives us that quilt along live functionality, don't you think? Well, once you pick your colors, then you have to pick your size, because this is a customizable quilt along. You can decide, do you want to do a smaller one, a medium, or the big old quilt, you know, if you want to actually put it on your bed, or you really love the person that you're making it for. Either way. So I'm going to scroll over real quick to the questions and see how you're doing. Now, what's great about this quilt along is you can actually interact with me, ask me any questions that you might have. Because sometimes when you're working on the quilt, you get stuck and you're not sure what to do, and this will allow you to do that. I'll be coming on YouTube, on Blueprint's YouTube every Monday. So you can check in there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now, I know there have been some questions coming through the YouTube channel, but we had a couple that were already asked on Facebook. So I want to go ahead and address those, and then I'll answer your questions, and we'll see how that goes. Got my little notes here so I don't forget. First of all, Belinda on Facebook, horrified, wrote, does that mean she's not doing Midnight Quilt Show anymore? Listen, Midnight Quilt Show is kind of my first love. It's not going anywhere. As long as you're watching the Midnight Quilt Show episodes, as long as you're telling your friends and subscribing, we'll keep making them. So this is just a bonus, just a little additional fun thing for you. All right, Mandy asked about the quilt. Is there tips for color placement? Because if you remember the beautiful striking pictures, there's a lot of different fabric colors. And actually the best tip is to read the pattern. The pattern writer has taken all the time to tell you what colors to put where. And in fact, some of the people in the comments mentioned that sorting the fabrics took quite a while. Now I get it, it takes a little bit of time to pair all those colors, but once you have them paired, you're finished. You don't have to do anything else. You've got it all ready to go and you can start making your blocks. So the best advice would be just to follow the pattern instructions. Now the result is a beautiful color placement for your quilt that you don't have to think too hard about. Or if you wanted to go ahead and make your own color arrangements or placements, or let's say you want to make it again with some different fabric, the pattern writer has picked the same shade with a darker and a lighter. So picking a darker green with a lighter green really gives it that really cool effect. So that would be the only tip I have for that. Otherwise, just read the pattern. She does all the work for you. And I like to keep it as easy as possible. All right, Brittany asked, I thought this was a fun question on Facebook. What's my must-have for a happy quilting space? Okay, so if any of you watch the Midnight Quilt Show, I'm guessing you could probably guess one of my must-haves For a happy quilting face and space would be water. No, I'm just kidding. I do love a glass of wine, but I would say my favorite thing about my quilting space is when I have that moment to myself, when I have my headphones on, I'm listening to my music or my audiobook. That's what I love. And also working on a fun project. That's a must-have for sure. All right, Laura, she was getting right to it. What are all your shortcuts for, she said, quilting, piecing, cutting, basting, all the fun stuff? Well, throughout the quilt along in the videos, I try to give you helpful tips that I found helpful for me as I was making this quilt. So if you're coming along and you're like, oh, how to make this easier, watch the video, because usually that's about all the tips I've got. But other than that, to just enjoy the process. This pattern isn't super difficult. It uses traditional piecing techniques, so a little bit of stitching and flipping, a little bit of half square triangles, quarter square triangles, so a lot of fun stuff, but none of it in itself is very difficult. It's the fabric placement that makes it such a stunning look. So I'll be sure to share those tips as we go through, but it's not a difficult quilt, so you'll probably have an easy time with it. All right, Lindsay, now this is a great question. Lindsay said, how do I organize my pieces? So for those of you that have already got your kit, you probably started sorting your fabric. There's a lot of letters, a lot of organization to this, which makes the piecing so much easier on down the road. So if that's you, my favorite organizing technique is the Ziploc bag, right? You don't have to go very far, just go to your kitchen, get a little Ziploc bag and put your pieces in there. Keeps them all together, but you can still see them. And you know, why not keep it easy instead of making it hard on ourselves? So I have a couple more questions from Facebook, but I'm going to switch. I'm going to look and see what's coming through on YouTube and see what you all are asking. Let's see. Charity has a great question. Is it easier to quilt on a sewing machine or a long arm? When you look at machines, and this is a question that's asked a lot, like, you know, I can't do this because I don't have a long arm, or why should I have a long arm versus a sewing machine? When it comes to quilting, most people don't use the tool that they have to its full extent. You can do any kind of quilting on any kind of machine, within reason, of course. Now, a long arm, the benefit to it is you can quilt a lot faster. So if you're kind of a speed demon like me, you can get those quilts done a lot quicker. But there are limitations to a long arm. You can't start wherever you want to on a quilt, and you also can't change the orientation of your quilt easily. So what does that mean? Let's say you're learning a new design like the wishbone design, and you want to be able to quilt it left to right. Then you could turn your quilt and just keep working in that direction. On a long arm, you have to learn it all different directions. So there's a couple differences. Ultimately, some people love to have their hands on the fabric. They love to be up close to it. You just kind of work with what you have and what you can do, and then finish your quilt, because that's definitely the most important part. Great question, Charity. All right, so Sherry says, hello from Sherry near Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Love your shows and your classes. Well, not really a question, but still a compliment. And I love compliments. Thank you so much, Sherry, for watching and for representing the neighbors to the north. I appreciate that. Learning to quilt on my sewing machine is one reason I joined the Quilt Along, and that's from D. Alvers. What's great about a Quilt Along is that you kind of have a checklist. You get to have a project to finish or to follow, and you kind of get to break it into steps. Because when you look at the whole quilt, it can be so overwhelming. Right? You can think, oh, I don't even know where to begin. Well, Quilt Along really breaks it down, makes it a little easier, but plus you get the community aspect. And that's what's great about myblueprint.com. You have that community that you can connect with and share. And you know how quilters are, right? We love helping each other out, answering each other's questions. And I'm sure I'm not going to be able to get to every question that's asked. I'm sure if you ask a question, there's a quilter or two that will answer it for you. So that's what's really fun about that. So I'm glad that you're joining the Quilt Along, and I hope the rest of you find that community aspect a lot of fun too. Speaking of the Quilt Along, next week I'm going to show you the kit. We're going to do some fabric fondling and see all those different colorways. So if you're still on the fence, you've seen some pictures, we'll really delve into that when we get into the first week of that Quilt Along. All right, Jackie says, you mentioned watch the videos. Oh, Jackie, thanks for clarifying that for me. I should have been a little bit more clear. The actual videos for the Quilt Along, which I've already filmed, which break it down into those steps, are on myblueprint.com. So you'll go there to watch. And all that description, all that information is in the description box below. So you can kind of scroll down and you'll see all the links to that. This is the YouTube live check-in. So I'm not going to be showing you how to make it here, but I'm going to be checking in with you, making sure you're doing fine. So the videos are on myblueprint.com. The check-in is here on YouTube, and you can go down to the description box below and it will have all that information for you. Good question. Jennifer says, any hints and tips are always welcome, and from whom better than you, Angela? Can't wait to start. Oh, that is so sweet. I love quilting. I want everybody to love it as much as I do. I know that sometimes it can be a little, stressful, so I'm glad to help you out. All right. Shelly, I love how a finished quilt is better than a perfect quilt top. So true. And through the whole quilt along, when I was doing the videos, we talk about that a lot. I want you to finish the quilt. That's why we include stuff about the quilting and how to make it easier, because, it can't do anything until it's a quilt. Now notice the quote doesn't say it's not a quilt until it's bound. So I'm just saying, I draw the line at binding. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Eliza says, how to piece quilting squares together on a sewing machine? Do the fabric store sell quilting kits in different sizes? So the quilting squares, or the pieces that we're sewing together to make up the bigger block, that's actually all in the pattern and in the videos. So the pattern has the step-by-step instructions that you need to make your quilt. That's going to be very important to have next to you. That's going to be your reference. Everything that you need spells it out. That is your recipe. Now the videos are kind of like me going over it, but showing you just a highlight of making the block. So that would be like watching the cooking show, right? Where I'm showing you kind of what to do, but you'll still want to have that recipe next to you. So all that information will be in the pattern. So be sure to, what you get with the kit, but make sure to print that off and have that next to you. It's going to come in a lot, very helpful. Vicky says, the most stressful thing in my life is when my husband gets mad at my spending, and it's all on fabric and patterns. It just builds and builds and builds. Ugh. Oh, Vicky. Yeah, that's rough. When you want to buy fabric and you want to do this, I kind of joke, I've got to be careful because I don't know who's all watching this. I kind of joke the best thing to do is to try to get your significant other involved in a hobby that's more expensive than quilting. Then you're fine. So golf, photography, old cars, that's always a good one, Vicky. So try to get him interested in a hobby and maybe you'll have a better time. But other than that, I can't help you with that. I don't know any other options. Patricia says, should we wait to begin sorting, cutting, piecing, etc. until the blueprint video appears? Now I have to double check on this because I'm only about 99% sure, but those videos are all on my blueprint now, live, or all on there right now. So you could say, you know what, I don't want to pace this out week by week. I'm going to go make this whole thing in a day, to which I say, bravo, go for it. No, go ahead and start your cutting and your sorting and all that kind of thing, because next week we're going to check in and see how you're doing with some of the blocks. So I'll tell you more about that, but all the videos from start to end are on my blueprint. You can go ahead and get started on that, or you can take it week by week with me, totally up to you. I know that there's a lot of different quilters out there, right? You've been to a quilting retreat, I'm sure, and you have the one over here making 5 quilts in the weekend, and the one over here that's talking too much and just cutting out a few. That would probably be me, because I do like to talk, but what are you gonna say? All right, now, this is what I love. Now, people are commenting in with suggestions for hobbies for husbands that might be more expensive than quilting, so very helpful. So that's what I love about quilters, so helpful. What sewing machine is best for patchwork? And so that's from Ivana. When it comes to piecing, it's or picking a sewing machine, it's like buying a car, right? What kind of car should you buy? Well, all cars fulfill a purpose, right? They get you from point A to point B. Same with sewing machines. They all help you sew your quilt. It just depends on what, features you want, what kind of accessories you like, how nice you want your ride to be. So, for instance, there's a lot of difference between a Ford, Escort and a Mustang. So it depends on what you can afford, what features you like. The best thing to do is to set up a budget for yourself that you feel comfortable spending, and then go start researching the different features that you want. And that's the best option because it's different for everybody. I'm only the expert of my opinion, so I only know what I like. The good thing is you're the expert of your opinion and you know what you like. So go ahead and work through that, and hopefully that'll help you out. Plus, some people might comment with some different suggestions as well. Okay, Janice says she has the queen size kit because that's what came with her subscription, but she only wants to make a twin. Is it easy to resize? So the pattern comes, no matter what size kit you purchase, the pattern has all the sizes in it. So you can look at your pattern and say, I'm going to make the middle size, even though I have enough fabric for the larger. That would actually be cool because then you can make a pieced backing for your quilt, or if you have any unintentional customizations due to cutting errors, you'll have a little bit extra fabric. So no worries, you can still make the middle size. Just check out the pattern, it has that information in it, no matter which size you buy. Good question. Vicky says, you think you could have bought a beautiful RV with what you have spent over the years. Oh, well, I don't know what to say to that. RVs are fun. Quilting is fun too, so I don't know. Okay, September Baby says, can somebody direct me to where I can find these videos that Angela keeps referring to? These videos that are just out there. Check out the description box below. So if you look down, there should be a link to it, and it will have all that information for you. Or somebody might copy and paste it into the thing. So, all right. So let's go back to some of the questions that were asked on Facebook earlier. Just trying to give it a nice balance between the two. Rachel said, which colorway is my favorite? And I thought, wow, Rachel, just ask me which kit I love the most too. That's hard to make that kind of decision. And really, when I was looking at the quilt along and trying to decide which one I was going to show off with the videos, I ended up going with the Spectrum. Now, the reason is it's the solid fabric, and I knew I could see the quilting. I love the quilting. That's my favorite part. And as much as I love the black background, it kind of absorbs all the thread, so you can't see it as much. And I thought, well, I'm going to do the middle colorway, or the Spectrum colorway. If it had all been solids, I probably would have went with the green and blue because those are my happy colors, but ultimately wanted the quilting to show up. So if you're forcing me to pick a favorite, then I would have to say Spectrum. But what's great about it is, every quilter has a different fabric preference, so you can pick which one you like. They're all gorgeous for sure. Okay, Teresa says she loves piecing on her featherweight the best. And so the featherweight, those beautiful old sewing machines from Singer, are so nice and light and handy. I have one of those too. And it's amazing to think just how great it pieces. That thing is awesome. So good option for you as well. A nice little featherweight. Smitten says, Smitten Kitten, which by the way, if there was an award for most consistent commenter, I'm pretty sure it would go to Smitten Kitten. I love getting on the Midnight Quilt Show YouTube videos and seeing the comments that come up. So funny. Anyway, will there be more episodes of True Up? I'm not sure. As much as I like being on camera, my husband and kids aren't as excited about it. So we're kind of exploring new ways to connect with you without, making my husband and kids mad at me. So we'll see. We're not ruling anything out. All I know is I love connecting with quilters and love getting to do this, and I'm so glad that Blueprint lets me do that. So, all right. So let's see some more questions. Oh, see, now I love this. People are chiming in with what they're using, their sewing machines. So Bernina's, Singer Featherweight. It's a lot of fun. So that's what I love about quilters, chiming in and helping each other out. Fantastic. All right, so Karen on Facebook asked me for tips in hiding imperfections in quilting and piecing. And I thought, gosh, I just always do a perfect job. I've got nothing because I never have to hide any of my mistakes. Oh, well, we know that's a lie. Actually, they're a little bit different. The way I handle the two are different depending on which one. So let's do imperfections with piecing, which is, when you sew it, you're like, this is going to be the best block ever, and you realize like the points are chopped off or what have you. If that happens, I kind of just reassure myself thinking, all right, you know what? It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. As long as it gets quilted and finished, it's not that big of a deal. And I try to, look at it and think, okay, this didn't work out so well, so I'm going to go ahead and try to do better next time. And then remembering it's such a small piece of the whole quilt. If I have this half square triangle that I'm making and the point is cut off, I have to remember there's 8 of them in this block. There's 20 of these blocks in the quilt. It's not going to be as noticeable. However, when you're quilting, if I'm quilting a design and I quilt something and I think, that's interesting, didn't mean for it to look like that, the best way to handle a quilting mistake is to put more mistakes around it, because eventually it just disappears. The thing about quilting is when it's all the same spacing, it's all consistent, your eye doesn't know where to focus, so it just sees the whole overall texture. So the worst thing you can do in quilting is to stop, get frustrated, and not do it anymore. The best thing to do is just to keep going, keep adding around it until it all goes away. but always remembering the end of it, right? You're gonna have a finished quilt. That's the most important thing. So remembering that will probably help get you through a lot of piecing or quilting unintentional customizations. We don't want to call them mistakes, they're just differences. All right, so Kathy had a great question as well. Her question was, what's the toughest part of this pattern? And so the thing is, when you're looking at the pattern, you want to know, am I going to be getting into a train wreck with this, right? Like, okay, that looks beautiful, but is it going to be difficult to piece? And honestly, all the blocks are pretty straightforward in the way they go together. They're, like I said, traditionally pieced. There's some good classic techniques like half square triangles, quarter square triangles, all that kind of information. So it's not very difficult. The hardest part would probably be sorting the fabric, taking your time and just really paying attention. But here's the thing, what happens if you pair two colors that aren't the right shades of red? It's not gonna matter, it's gonna be pretty, don't worry too much about it. So it's actually not a super hard pattern, and I think you're gonna like it. Okay. Oh, Kelly says, I'm a perfectionist and I tried to carry that over to quilting. It made me sad. I quickly learned to shove the perfectionism away and let the mistakes go. Kelly, you'll enjoy quilting so much more because of that. The thing is, perfectionism is great. You want to be perfect if you're doing brain surgery or building a bridge. But for quilting, it's meant to be fun. Like, remember, this is your hobby, your passion. And when you let your perfectionism take that joy away, then I don't know, it's just not fun. The thing is though, if you're a perfectionist, if you haven't got to Kelly's point and be like, okay, you know what, I'm going to get over this, if you haven't got to that point, just replace the word perfect with finished. Okay? I wish this quilt were perfect. Well, no, you'd say, I wish this quilt was finished. I want these blocks to be perfect. I want them to be finished. And sometimes that just helps kind of switch your mindset. Okay, about the pattern, somebody asked a good question. Are all the blocks the same size? And I just caught it for a second. And now I don't remember the name, but somebody said, are all the blocks the same size? They are not. So if you're making the twin size quilt, some of the blocks are differently sized than the queen size. So you want to make sure as you're reading the pattern that you know which size you're making, and also pay attention to that as you're cutting and piecing. And it makes perfect sense when you read the pattern. So there's definitely different instructions for different sizes. And I hope you're enjoying the check-in, loving to see the questions. We have a few more minutes. I'm not going anywhere quite yet, but I want to remind you to make sure you subscribe to Blueprint's YouTube channel because you don't want to miss any of these check-ins, and it kind of already gives you reminders, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, Kelly's on her lunch break. You're giving up food to watch this? That's true love. I don't know how to give up food to listen to my self-talk. Okay. So people are talking about their machines, talking about the quilt along. Great. One more question that came through on the Facebook was toughest parts of the pattern, shortcuts, must have. I think I got it all. All right, Kelly. So the thing about perfectionism, and I talk about this a lot in the video, I talk about, just get it close. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now I get it. You want it to look nice. And I definitely think you should try your hardest, but just kind of give yourself some grace and know that it's okay if it isn't completely perfect. So while I'm to see if there's any last minute questions that come through, I'm sure there's some I've missed, but I'm kind of multitasking here. Let's explain what the rest of this check-in is going to look like, or what the rest of this quilt along looks like. Every week I will be here on Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, and that's where I'll kind of go over what we're talking about that week. So for instance, this one was just a check-in, kind of lay it out for you, let you know what you were getting into, and answer questions. So this is a great way to, answer those questions you might have, or just, hang out and chat. I can talk about anything, so whatever you want to ask. Then I'll also give you a milestone to hit. So for instance, this first introduction one, I'm going to say, all right, now that you're committed, you're like, I want to do this. This is going to be fun. I want you to go ahead and start cutting and making your star blocks. So in your pattern, the center of the quilt is this beautiful star where these 4 star blocks come together. Go ahead and work on that, because next week I'll check in with you and see how that went and talk about any questions you might have had about the stitch and flip technique or arranging your colors or what have you. Now, if you can't wait until Monday, you're just dying to show off what you're working on, you can share pictures on social media using #GloriousDawnQAL. And so that way other people can see them and cheer them on as well. Then every week we'll check in, and then I'll give you another milestone to hit. But if you, like I said, if you're more ambitious, you're like, I want to quilt all night, no problem. You can go ahead and speed on ahead. This is just meant to be kind of a fun option for you. Okay, so as we're looking through answering any questions, just to reiterate, you know the videos are on myblueprint.com. The check-ins will be here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to Blueprint's YouTube so you don't miss any of these. I'll be here on Mondays, 3 p.m. Eastern, answering your questions and kind of talking through. And next week, we'll have some fun stuff to show. We'll be looking at the kit, we'll be unboxing it, and also be kind of talking through that first part of your pattern. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Be sure to check in for that. All right, so I think this is gonna be it. Making sure, oh good, everybody's chatting. Y'all are having a great conversation on there. You don't even need me for this. Fantastic. No, I'm just kidding. I'm still gonna be here. Well, thank you so much for joining. I'm Angela Walters. I'll be back next Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern time, where we'll see how you're going. So go ahead and decide on your colorway if you haven't, decide on your size. Get that kit ordered. If you haven't ordered your kit yet, check out the description box below because they're doing it for 50% off. That's not even a whole RV. That's just like, you know, the cushion that goes inside of it. And then go ahead and get started on that, and I'll be back next week. Thank you so much for checking in, and I'll see you then. Happy quilting.